All right, guys, welcome back to Healthy Kitty Club. Today we are going to be talking about everything related to our pelvic health, pelvic bowl, and sexual health. What that looks like, from pain to how to make things better, making things tighter, just all the things that a lot of us go through or question. So today should be really awesome. My guest today, I'm really excited because we hopped on a call the other night to really kind of dive into what specifics we wanted to go over. And when I told her that I wanted to talk about pelvic health and what that looks like in our sexual lives, I was really nervous to go there because, you know, just like a lot of us, they're not conversations that we're having. And she immediately had me feeling so at ease, and her energy was amazing. And so I have just been so excited to welcome her to the club. So, Lindsay Dirringer, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
And what inspired you to get into this field?
Yeah, well, I talk about sexual health a lot. It's my whole job. And yet, when you said that you wanted to do this podcast with me on sexual health, I was like, what do you even say?
Yep.
What do you even say?
A million questions, but yeah, where do I start?
I read all your list of questions and was like, I don't know.
I'm just out here living like the rest of us.
Yep. Answering these questions on the day-to-day. Yeah, so I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I started my career in mechanical engineering, and I think as like going through that career, I wound up as a lead engineer on the pelvic plating system at the company that I worked for, Acumed. And it just kind of came to life that, you know, in engineering, we work a lot with these like structural forces, and the whole point of what I was doing was making bones sound, right? So that people could move through life with their skeleton. And it became so obvious that the pelvis was the whole center of the body, that it acts in this like perfect mechanical system so that everything else in the body can work, and nothing else in the body can work without it. And then when I went to PT school, it was so obvious that, you know, that's still true. Like in the muscles and the ligaments and the whole system, it's not just the skeleton. The whole system really relies on the pelvis. And so I sort of dug my way into the pelvic floor because nobody else is there. Felt like nobody else was there. We weren't learning about it in PT school, and it was just so clear that I guess I'm biased, but it's the center of everything.
It is. That's what has been crazy to me, is that the fact that we, you know, there's no focus on it at all, really, in the grand scheme of things. And when you think about it, it's literally holding up your entire body. Like, why is it not just more of a conversation as far as how important it is and what you can do with it?
It's really overlooked.
Yeah.
I wish I knew how to answer that question.
It's wild.
The good news is it's getting better.
Yeah, thanks to people like you. For sure.
Big nerds.
Well, okay, so tell us, because not everyone knows, a little bit about what pelvic floor therapy is, and then how it connects to sexual health.
So pelvic floor therapy, we mostly focus, well, let me start with what the pelvic floor is. Mm-hmm. So the pelvic floor is all the soft tissues that make up the bottom of the pelvic bone. So the bottom of the pelvic bone is open. If you reach under your sits bones, there's no other bony structure there. There's nothing else holding you together. So
crazy.
So everything that closes the bottom of that bowl, that's the pelvic floor. That involves muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and of course your skin. And so pelvic floor therapy, most of the time we're more focused on the muscles in the pelvic floor. There's not a lot of kind of short-term stuff you can do to save a ligament other than surgery, which isn't usually recommended. Sometimes it's recommended. If you're in my office, it's not always recommended. Mm-hmm. But pelvic floor therapy, we're trying to make sure that the muscles are doing the best that they can to support what your body needs. And the pelvic floor has a lot of functions, not just urinary continence, fecal continence, and letting things go when you need to let them go. Also sexual health, like we're going to talk about today, and structure. If you're standing on one foot and you need to reach for something, literally the only thing that's connecting the bottom of your body to the top of your body is your pelvis. So you've got to have
crazy.
You've got to have a lot of muscle support. You've got to have a lot going on there to be able to stay upright while you reach for a thing, or stay upright at all, really. So pelvic floor therapy is just making sure that the muscles are working their best. A big part of that is that all the other muscles that relate to it, we're talking about like a lot of hip muscles, a lot of core muscles, a lot of how you use those muscles, is that those muscles are giving everything that they can give to make sure that the pelvis is stable as well. So in pelvic floor therapy, we do a lot with the pelvic floor muscles. I'd say that's what separates us from other PTs. But you can't do pelvic floor therapy without the rest of the body, so don't be surprised when somebody wants to look at your hip strength.
Totally. Makes sense for sure. So how important, because I feel like for a lot of us who have had babies, I had 2 almost 10-pound babies, and I said it on the last episode too, like I was 21 years old. No one said anything to me about what can happen to your body when you have a baby, let alone a bowling ball size baby. Nobody, I mean, my mom, like no one around me. And then obviously I would expect that like the doctor, that it would be like, okay, so this is what this is going to look like. And like, here's things that you should do to make it better. So like muscle strength, and the way that like our bodies change, what does that look like as far as like what you guys do and how you can help that?
It depends. Classic PT answer.
Totally.
So it always depends. I think that most people who carry pregnancies to term have some form of pelvic floor challenge. Whether it kind of comes through as a full dysfunction, like an obvious dysfunction, or not, isn't always clear. Carrying a baby to term means that your abdominal muscles are stretched out and your stability is being challenged in a lot of ways. So most of us develop an external, or like a wider rotation in our upper pelvis, which is going to change the way we carry our hips, and it, in the end, that's a big ask for your pelvic floor. And the ligaments often get stretched out through pregnancy, which gives your muscles an even bigger job to do. So whether that kind of comes through as a weakness, like the ligaments are stretched and the muscles haven't made up for it, or a tightness, which is that the muscles are trying so hard to make up for it and they just kind of get stuck in this compressed position and can't work, like trying to chew with a clenched jaw. Yeah. You don't know how that's going to turn out in a particular body. I would say that most people who carry a baby to term should have their pelvic flour checked out, though.
Yeah, like how is that? How is it not like a package deal?
Don't
you know
even.
What I mean? Like,
don't even.
Like it's just so bizarre to me.
It's
like I wouldn't
bizarre.
brush my teeth without toothpaste.
Yeah.
So like, why am I having a baby without like figuring out what's going on and how it all works? Plays
you're
out.
Obviously you're preaching to the choir right now. And I will say that I have several patients right now who they call me and they say, oh no, nothing is wrong. My OB or my midwife or my PCP said I should just get checked out. I should make sure I'm doing everything right for this pregnancy or for this postpartum recovery or whatever.
That's amazing.
Which I love.
Yeah.
I love that, because not even because these people are in my office, though I love working with these people, but because the doctors and the midwives and the OBs are saying it, and that just it lights me up. I get so excited.
Absolutely, because it's crazy to me that before I started this whole adventure, I had never in my life heard about pelvic floor therapy.
And you're not alone. And unfortunately, I do also have a patient right now who had her eval the other day, and she said that she asked her OB if she should have pelvic floor therapy for prolapse. And her OB looked and said she doesn't have prolapse, and said, no, why do you need pelvic floor therapy? She asked about it for diastasis. She said, I heard you can do breath work for diastasis. And the OB said, breath work, which is like the only thing in the literature that's really proven to aid with managing diastasis recti, which is the separation of the abdominal wall. And yeah, so I mean, that's still out there, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and good for this patient, like she knew.
Yeah, advocating for herself.
Yeah, and you don't need a referral in Oregon to see a therapist. So she just was like, sure, whatever you say, and came to see me, and we're working on it. And by the way, there's a prolapse. I don't know what this lady was thinking.
What the heck? Okay, so speaking of, help me understand what prolapse is.
Sorry, yeah.
No, you're okay.
So prolapse is when the tissues in the pelvic floor have loosened to the degree that one of the functions of the pelvic floor, which is holding up your organs in the right place, isn't able to perform. So something is so lax, softened, that the bladder, most commonly the rectum or the uterus or the cervix or the urethra, some other structure has kind of eked its way into the vaginal cavity itself. Not a big deal if it's, you know, a small grade. It can get pretty severe though, pretty uncomfortable, and come with a lot of other symptoms. And obviously, you know, if something is actually falling out of your vagina, that is something you want to have looked at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the pictures in my head that I have right now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. And I can't believe that there are people who are just living like that because there are people who aren't diagnosing it, or you know, or that they're not getting the information.
Fortunately, if it's
wild.
a small enough prolapse, most of the time, like, you can get by. But you know, if there's like in postpartum recovery, if there's a little bit of leakage that you just can't seem to get a handle on, urinary leakage, or a little bit of pressure in the pelvis that just feels like weird, you know, those are all things that you can kind of tell yourself, not a big deal, whatever, like, I'm living my life. Being a woman is hard, which, yeah, it's hard enough. So, you know, don't let that add to it.
Absolutely.
So it's easy enough to live with some of those things that it's not a priority. You would not believe how many people I see who are like, yeah, this has been happening for 25 years. My kids are out of the house, and now I'm finally given some space to, like, focus on it.
That's so heartbreaking to me that, like, as women, culturally, that's how most of us are. We just go through life day to day, regardless of what pain we're in, what discomfort, what we're dealing with, because we're all so inclined to just ignore it, like, or not, you know, just not even ignore it, but like not make ourselves and our bodies a priority. Like,
Totally. I mean, you're right. There is this huge cultural component, and I don't want to take away from that at all. But we're also just busy.
Yeah.
Life is busy. My husband has been coughing for, I don't know, like 5 months.
No.
The man won't go to a damn doctor.
Why?
I mean, because it's not a big deal.
see?
It's not a big deal.
Yep,
You know?
yep.
And he's like, well, I have work. You know, we're trying to get some of the kids' documentation squared away. It's just like, there's enough. He's doing enough. And he's like, why would I make space for that? It's not interrupting my life that much.
Yeah.
I think, you know, he will, if it continues, he will eventually go to the doctor, and he won't have the added barrier of the socio-emotional component.
Yeah.
He won't have the added barrier of the intimacy of the conversation.
Right.
And he won't have the added barrier of likely being a woman trying to talk to a man about something he doesn't understand. So there definitely are those components, but it's also just a human condition right now. Like,
it really
it's just hard to
is.
take care of yourself.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just hope that, like, the future holds space for humans to be able to, like, breathe into their lives a little bit more instead of just
Rush through them.
Yeah, just functioning. You know what I mean? 'Cause I mean, I know so many people just that have things they need to do for themselves, and it's the last thing on the list. And not and knowing people who have waited for too long is part of kind of what got me started on this as far as like my personal journey, because it's like there are so many things that could just spiral so fast that I'm glad that I'm trying to get into that realm.
Good.
It's not
Good
easy.
for you. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about tight kitties. I saw the wildest. It was wild. I wish I could like pull it up. Kung Fu Vagina. Have you seen this?
No, but I'm gonna have to look it up.
Girl, everyone, look it up. This woman is hanging surfboards from her bits.
Okay.
She's doing all the things, and it's wild. And you know, I know that our pelvic bowl is like a monster. That's how we have babies. That's how there's so much strength capability there. But what effects can we have on our lives and like our sexual lives if we are strengthening those muscles and doing the things that we could be doing on our own to not that we're going to be lifting surfboards.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if that's a functional goal.
This is wild. Like, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I was like, wow. I mean, I know there's something about being like tighter, but like, this is insane. So anyway,
I'm so curious. I want to do a pelvic exam on this woman. I want to know.
I mean, and then of course I'm like, you know, you go down the rabbit hole and like on YouTube, they're lifting dumbbells and weights, and it was like with like a yoni egg and a string. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. I like color in my free time when I'm watching TV. Like, what am I, you know what I mean? Like, I just like,
wow,
do I need to like step up my like extracurricular game? Because what are these women doing? This is insane.
Yeah, that's
insane.
Crazy. And I wonder where they're working out. I've never seen a woman at the gym.
I need a membership to that gym.
Yeah, right. The vagym.
Yeah, hey, we might be onto something.
Might be onto something there.
So good.
Yeah, I have no idea what these women are doing with their vaginas. I rarely use pelvic weights, let alone surfboards.
Yeah.
To help strengthen. It's not functional. They might be doing a million Kegels. They're almost definitely like beating the shit out of their deep hip rotators and their hips to support, you know, pelvic strength. They have got a handle on core pressure. The arches of their feet are dialed. I mean, I don't know.
These are stable ass ladies.
I don't know how you get to that point. I am not there. I will let you know.
So tools, how do you, because like I was looking at like I think it's called a Kegel that like has like, it's kind of like balloony.
The vaginal weights?
No, it's like for Kegels, but it's like Kegel, and it has like a app on your phone, and it tells you like if you're squeezing right and how to do all the things, or like the ball, like Kegel balls. Like, are there things in that realm that you feel like are useful, or like what's your stance on that, and
it depends.
And what's the good and the bad?
Yeah. I think the good is that most of these tools exist because they've been useful for something at some time. And because, oh gosh, women, especially women's pelvic health, is so, everybody has it, right? Everybody's got something, whether it's abdominal pain or urinary leakage or constipation, like everybody's got something. And so there's a huge market for fixes. Yeah. So I think like that's the good and the bad. There are tools out there that can help, and there are tools out there that people don't really understand what they need to get better, and these tools might not be helping. They might be hurting, right? So some guidance, with the right guidance, a lot of those tools can be great. the biofeedback tools, the ones that are insertable with an app on your phone, most of the studies that have been done have shown that they're not wildly accurate, so you can't use them for a measure of strength, but you can use them for a measure of comparison. So if, for example, if your primary goal is to let the tension in the pelvic floor go that you're just always holding, it can be so great for like neuromuscular conditioning, like the ability for your brain and your muscles to be able to communicate with each other. It can be great to have that visual feedback.
Totally, to be able to connect the two pieces and like see it.
Yep.
Would be
really
super
helpful. Yeah, but if you're trying to see like, am I getting stronger, or trying to do just more Kegels, which, like, I'll be honest, never ever have I had a patient for whom the answer is more Kegels.
Well, and I mean, I feel like that's the only thing most of us know about.
Right.
But nobody really teaches you how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about the tools, because it was like, okay, well, are those something that helps, or, you know, like what way do you typically teach your patients to do a Kegel properly?
I start with the breath. So I do a ton of breath work in my clinic. The pelvic floor has a natural movement with your breath, and what's so awesome about it is that your pelvis, the bone, also has a natural movement with your breath. So by utilizing the breath, you can get the most out of kind of the two primary tools that you have to learn how to get a good length tension relationship in the pelvic floor, meaning that the muscle is at a good place to work from.
Got it.
So when you use the breath and you get the good diaphragmatic movement, then the pelvic floor is kind of following the diaphragm because of air pressure changes, and it's also getting lengthened because the pelvis shape is changing. And so I don't know, we can find out a lot about how the pelvic floor is working in your body to begin with, and it's a great way to be like, oh, that's what a Kegel feels like, because it's happening semi-naturally if you're learning your breath well.
Okay.
I also, like, during an internal exam, I will use different kinds of cues. The way we connect with our bodies is all kind of different from person to person. So I'll use different cues with different people and find the one that works the best for them. I'm often using the cue to pick up a blueberry with your anus. Oh. Doesn't that feel weird?
Oh,
I know.
That's amazing.
But
another skill I don't have.
People have been told to stop the flow of urine, and to do that, they're pushing a lot of times with air into their pelvis and actually putting more pressure on the bladder, sometimes squeezing with the adductors, and we just need to take you away from those anterior muscles in order to connect with the pelvic muscles as a whole. And research has shown that where we're focused on the pelvic floor doesn't have a huge impact on where is strengthening. So if you're squeezing the anus, you're squeezing the pelvic floor. If you're squeezing the vagina, you're squeezing the pelvic floor. In theory, if you're squeezing the urethra, you're also squeezing the pelvic floor. But it just doesn't work that well for most people. That cue just doesn't do it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. A blueberry with your anus.
Yeah. Yeah, people have a very good relationship with their anuses. As a rule.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see that being a thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh my gosh, I love it. So many visuals happening in my brain right now. It's freaking great.
Oh, just real quick, you asked what tools are most useful. Most of the time, the tool that I am prescribing the most is a pelvic wand, which the one that I usually have in stock is the Intimate Rose pelvic wand. I can show you if you want.
Yeah.
I like it because it's a little softer and than some of the alternatives, and it has more curve in it, and I'm a big fan of like good trigger point release. So that curve allows you to get into some muscles a little better.
All right.
Pelvic wand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't work for this company. It's just the one that I've found I like the best.
Perfect.
But there's a lot out there, and most people with pelvic floor dysfunction don't just have a strength problem, because the pelvis has been fighting for control. So I'd say like most of the people who wind up in my office have kind of a strength tightness cohabitation problem. And so first of all, the wand can help you get to know those muscles. And second of all, if there is a tension, it can help you release some of that tension. So that's the one that I find the most helpful, the most useful. It's the one I recommend the most, which still isn't a huge amount, but
okay,
yeah.
huge. Well, we'll make sure to put get a picture of it so that we can put it up for people, just in case, you know.
Yeah. Send Intimate Rose a copy. Maybe they'll put me on payroll.
Yeah. Hey, hey, we got you.
Right.
So okay, pain and sex. Let's talk about this, because I feel like, at least for me, that's almost always been a thing. Whether it's, and I think in my mind, I always just chalked it up to like position, or it's just me. It's just because, let's just be honest, no one, there were no other size or anything like that reasoning behind
it's normal,
any sort of pain, right? It was, we're not giving any credit to any men around here. Just kidding. But I always was just like, oh, you know, it is what it is. And so many people that I've talked to lately, it's like, it is what it is for so many of us. So what things cause that? What's that all about?
Oh gosh, it depends.
Right? I mean, you know, the general.
I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
No, you're okay.
Most of the people who wind up in my office for pain with sex are fighting a high tone muscle component, at least a component.
Okay. What do you mean by high tone?
High tone, yeah, high tone would mean that the muscle is kind of working harder than it has to, or it's shorter than it should be.
Okay.
If you imagine your biceps muscle, right? Like this is a really long biceps right now because the attachment at the elbow is all the way, it's as far as it can be. Yeah. This is a really shortened biceps muscle. And that's why it bulges here. It's just, it's pulling, and so it's shortening, and that's what pulls the elbow. And the pelvic floor muscles also have length and shortened, long and shortened states, right? If your biceps were living up here all the time, that would be a tone in the muscle. You see this in people with neurological conditions. And most of the time in ortho, we are talking about neurological conditions when we're talking about tone, but in the pelvic floor, we're talking about just this kind of state of onness most of the time.
Just like constantly
on.
Ugh.
Yep, guarding for some reason. People who've experienced sexual trauma often wind up with some kind of guarding and tone, even when it is just not a factor in their lives anymore, right? They've been to the therapy, they've been in healthy relationships since then, they've enjoyed sex since then. But the body keeps track, and we feel protective of ourselves, as we should, as a matter of being human, and that can get worse and better and flare and regress. And so, you know, tone in the muscles in that situation is totally normal, but it also can be like after a childbirth. A childbirth is a trauma. Even a non-traumatic childbirth is a trauma. I don't care what anybody says. It is beautiful, it is natural, it is amazing. It's a miracle. Can I swear?
Yeah,
I guess I already, it's a fucking miracle, man. But
please, girl, I don't trust anybody who doesn't drop an F-bomb now and again, so
but
you are
it's
safe.
Also a fucking trauma. Like,
yeah.
what do we really just expect women to just like get up and move on with their lives when they passed a watermelon out of a dime-sized hole?
Thank you. Yep. With no conversation, no context, no help.
Any other part of you went through that kind of abuse, you'd be in PT, you'd be seeing your MD, you'd be in the hospital, people would be taking you seriously.
Yep. Waiting on you hand and foot, making sure that everything is taken care of.
All you husbands out there, I hope you're listening.
Absolutely, take notes. Take all the notes.
Yeah, so if you've been through that, then there's a trauma component, even leakage, like even weakness in the pelvic floor, that makes it want to grip and tighten. But there's also orthopedic conditions that can make the pelvic floor want to guard, like weakness in the hips. Those deep hip rotators that live kind of half in the pelvic floor and half in the hip, those can pull on the pelvic floor and make them want to grip and tighten as well. So it could be for any reason that you have tightness. It's not always tightness. There's dryness, like postmenopausal women often have dryness.
Yeah.
That contributes to pain with sex. Abdominal pain, prolapse. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that somebody might have pain. A mismatch in size is one of those reasons.
Yeah.
And a shortened vaginal canal, so a low cervix, is also one of those reasons. Those things I can't fix for you in therapy, right? But what we can do is talk about tools to make it more comfortable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like what?
Like the
what does that
look
look like?
This is one of my favorite things. Yeah. Talk
Okay,
about a useful
do tell,
tool.
girl.
So the O-nut is it's stackable rings that can go around the shaft of the penis, so that he's not penetrating as deeply.
Oh.
And everybody can just have thoughtless, enjoyable sex without any cervical complications.
That's genius.
It's genius, right?
Yeah. Where has that been? That seems like a really easy fix.
Right?
Like, that's great.
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of it.
Okay, the O-nut.
The O-nut, O-H, O-nut.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to recommend if the cervix is really what's getting in the way.
Yeah.
Though sometimes if it is a cervical prolapse, then also some pelvic floor strengthening and can contribute to helping that as well.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So on that note, what kind of exercises or stretches or things can we do for ourselves at home that would help strengthen? Or, well, see, that's kind of hard though, because
it depends.
Yeah, if that's not the problem.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say generally, like as a general rule for most people, you're going to need hip strength to support your pelvic floor. Whatever strength you have in the pelvic floor is useless if it's not well connected to the rest of you. So hip strength, core strength, working on the breath work, making sure, a lot of us hold our breath when we pick up heavy objects. I have a almost 4-year-old who's like 55 pounds. Oh my God, that girl. And when I pick her up, I definitely notice that I have work to do, right? Because I hold my breath and it gives me the illusion of abdominal strength. But also it pushes down on the pelvic floor, it pushes down on your bladder, pushes out on your rectum, and that doesn't help anything. So making sure that you're exhaling when you do anything effortful with your body. Learning how to talk to your pelvic floor is something that will benefit everybody. So I said that everybody has a relationship with their anus, right? Start there.
Yeah.
Just notice when it's clenched. You guys, like the hill, you go over a hill and it's like, whoop!
Yep.
Yeah, that sensation, just go drive your hills.
Totally.
But get to know your pelvic floor because you can't fix something that you don't know is there.
Right.
I mean, masturbation is great.
Yeah.
What does it actually feel like is orgasm painful or is it sex?
Right. Oh.
So if at least you can kind of tell your provider, your PT, hopefully your PT or other kind of holistic provider, what's going on with good awareness, right? That gives you a really good head start.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because you're right. Like, I feel like not knowing your own body well enough would be a huge factor in trying to explain or help your own situation,
right,
if you're just kind of flying blindly.
Just doing Kegels.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems like Kegels, a lot of people are not doing them correctly, is what I'm kind of
and
starting to understand,
a lot of people don't need them to
right?
begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't need them.
Okay. Are there things that, because I've got a 19-year-old, so it's really kind of opened my eyes to what, like I said, I had my baby at 21. Like, the younger ladies, what are there things that they can be doing in their lives that either, whether it's preventing them from losing strength or getting too strong, or like, what does that look like for somebody who's in their 20s, hasn't had a baby, but wants to just kind of proactively make sure that their pelvic floor health is at its best?
Yeah, I am definitely drinking the Kool-Aid, so maybe take what I say with a grain of salt. But I say that every woman, every female-bodied person should see a pelvic floor PT at 3 points in their lives. when they're going through puberty or starting to engage in sexual activity, when they're having a baby, whether that's hopefully pre, but certainly if not pre, then also post having that baby, and going through menopause.
Okay.
Your pelvic floor, the way it works, the way your hormones are contributing to whatever's happening in your pelvic floor, your body is undergoing such an incredible transformation at that point, and it's a really good idea just to get to know it again, like know the communication.
Yeah.
And if there are things that are kind of particular to your situation then that you need to be doing, that'll give you a really great preventative place to start, right?
Absolutely.
In puberty, in pregnancy, and in menopause.
God, that's genius. Like, honestly,
Why, thank
you know what I mean? Because I'm just like, puberty, like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
because it's like, we, especially at that age, when you're just so blind to anything that's coming your way.
Right.
And I feel like us not being connected to our bodies starts really early. And that would be...
Especially in the pelvic floor, because you can't see it in the mirror.
Right.
It doesn't do anything like obvious for you in your everyday life. You take it for granted. So I also, the women, young women, it's getting better now that millennials children are growing up, right? It's getting better, but a lot of women in that age bracket can't talk to their mothers about this, or if they do, their mothers say this is normal, this is, don't worry. Pain, unfortunately, pain with sex, or like sex is for a man's pleasure or whatever, like that's not done with. We're not done saying that for some reason. So like going someplace else, I guess, for a second opinion is really valuable.
I mean, yeah, because that is like, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Like those, women, I feel like that's where it starts, is like girls not knowing how to talk to their moms.
Right.
And then, and just the way that things in life are changing, because if we today are still seeing that most people don't know about pelvic floor, my mom sure as hell wasn't having conversations with her mom about pelvic floors. Like, like just stopping that like cycle of all of us really not talking about it.
Yeah.
Like,
and young women going through puberty or starting to engage in sexual activity, maybe they don't want their moms to know.
I mean,
right? No matter the relationship that you have with your mom, I have a great relationship with my mom. She is my best friend. She's my biggest cheerleader. Like, I love my mom. And I don't think I would have walked up to my mom and been like, okay, I'm going to have sex with my boyfriend. Let's talk about that. I don't think I would have done that. I didn't do that. So, I think it's, even if hopefully a mother would be understanding that you just want to kind of have your bases covered. Like, we all start to go see a gynecologist around that age. Also see a pelvic floor PT.
Yeah, I think you're right, because like, doesn't necessarily need to be your mom, because those aren't, that's just could be really awkward, especially at that young age. Right. But just like I said, like, why are they not hand in hand? You know what I mean? Like, we're going to go to the gynecologist and we're going to go to a pelvic floor therapist, and we're going to figure out all the things and start this journey with like a solid understanding.
And red flags for pelvic health are different from red flags for gynecological health.
Right.
Like, your first speculum pelvic exam, if it hurts, your OB is not thinking like, oh, there's probably dysfunction here, right?
Yeah.
Because a first pelvic exam with a speculum, like, I don't want to say it's normal, but it like it is. The first time somebody's penetrating, that's going to hurt, right?
It was horrifying.
Yeah. Oh my God, I know.
And
it's so tragic.
I'm 41 and had 2 babies, and still every time I'm like, God, here we go. You got the stupid sticker on the ceiling, like that's supposed to make everything better.
I know. It's
what
terrible.
are we doing?
It's terrible.
Yep.
But like the gynecologist is looking for like medical red flags that you need medical treatment for, and the PT is looking for, may not even do a pelvic exam like when you're there in that early stage of life, but wanting to know that you can communicate with your pelvic floor and what red flags to look for so that you have good sexual health, which really is just health. Yeah. And you have an awareness of like what is normal and what is not normal. And so many people that I have right now who've been leaking urine since they were high school athletes. So many people.
So insane.
Like if I'd seen them in middle school, they would know that that was not something that is okay. It's not something that's normal, and the sooner you fix it, the better.
Yeah, because it's almost like a running joke. Like, oh, I just
know.
peed a little,
I
and
know.
it's like,
I still laugh at that joke. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
but
well,
also
for
I've got
sure.
cards.
But yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm glad. I would never want to make someone feel uncomfortable or awkward about it, right? Like, so I understand why we just like make it a funny thing.
Yeah.
But like in the big
shared
scheme
trauma.
of things, right? Like there are ways to fix that, and we don't have to live that way.
No.
Like it's not. And yeah, if it's starting really early, get it together for yourself, because nobody wants to live like that.
No.
Not at all. So you mentioned red flags.
Mm-hmm.
What would be red flags that we could kind of look for, be aware of for ourselves, as you know, to know whether or not maybe there's issues coming up for us?
I mean, the big heavy hitters for like, is my pelvic floor doing what it needs to do or not, are the, you know, you see it all over Instagram, like leakage, urinary leakage, fecal leakage, constipation, urinary retention, pain with sex. What else? I mean, any like low abdominal pain is, I think, one that's maybe a little bit less all over Instagram, but when you have really uncomfortable cramps, again, getting better but still not there, it's really common just to be like, oh, that's what happens. Women have cramps.
Yeah.
Sucks for you. Go to
Totally.
school. Go to work, whatever.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Move on with your life. One of my patients said, it shocked me that anybody expected women to work through their periods if women experience this kind of discomfort during their periods. It's shocking to me. And if it's shocking to you that women are expected to work during their periods, then you should probably get checked out.
Yeah.
And that kind of abdominal pain, like depending on what's going on there may not be, it could also be related to tone in the pelvic floor or tone in the low abdominals, which are really tied up with the pelvic floor. But it also could be something else that we don't necessarily have control over in our office. But to prevent it from taking over your life, you want to take control over all the things that you can have control over. And that's how your body's responding to that pain. So that would be a good reason to see a PT.
Yeah.
The one, any kind of like, I mean, I'm going to say obviously, which I hope it's obvious, pregnancy, postpartum recovery, definitely have a PT on your team. And back pain and hip pain that hasn't been addressed, if you have had it seen by a ortho PT, you've seen a chiropractor, I mean, even if you haven't like seen a PT or a chiropractor, probably the pelvic floor is involved in some way. But certainly if you have and it's just not getting better or not getting better enough, then definitely get the pelvic floor checked out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. My dad said the other day that he had like some elbow pain, and you know, I'm still a PT, so I'm still an ortho PT. And he was asking me about it, and he said, now I just don't tell me it's related to my pelvic floor.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
But really, it's true. Anything in the body, head, neck, and jaw pain is a big one. If you're having like TMJ symptoms, TMJD symptoms that aren't being relieved with working in the jaw, then work in the pelvis.
Wait,
I know,
hold
I'm sorry.
on.
I
I
just
have
went there.
TMJ. I have had jaw surgery. And you're telling me what?
Yeah. If you're having head, neck, and jaw pain that isn't being resolved by what the dentist is recommending for treatment, then see a pelvic floor specialist, because the fascial lines in your body, I mean, it's remarkable to see the pictures of the pelvic floor system and the head, neck, and jaw system, because they're just mirror images of each other. And they share this frontal line of fascia that is just a constant transmitter of information. So if your pelvic floor is gripping, you might be feeling that here because you're still gripping.
Yeah, girl. I can't, that's insane. That's absolutely, but it makes so much sense. Like, clenched up here, I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm always like, all the time. And that they're just mirrors.
They're mirrors of each other, yeah. Yeah, I know, it's so completely wild. I can make myself kind of go into this what phase too if I think about it enough. The reverse is also true. If you're having pelvic floor dysfunction and we're not able to fix it in pelvic floor therapy, I will look in your jaw And I have some skills in the jaw, and if I don't have the skills for what you need, then I have people.
That is absolutely wild.
I know. It's so bodies are amazing, man.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I didn't see that coming. Not
Sorry.
one friggin' bit. Jaw and pelvis being connected.
I should have brought
At
pictures.
all.
It's wild. Look it up. Look, everybody who's listening right now, just get on your Google, look up a picture of the jaw, flip it upside down, superimpose it on a picture of the pelvis. Tell me you don't see it.
That is so crazy.
It is. Yeah.
And yet here we are. Most of us don't know that pelvic floor therapy exists. Like,
No. Or frankly, TMJ therapy.
Yeah.
Also a specialty
also
that you should be looking into if your dentist is saying that you should have teeth pulled when they're totally healthy.
Oh my gosh. That is, I don't know, my brain is like shutting down. Like, I just cannot even, I can't.
It's so cool.
That's like, and so, okay, so so I have TMJ, right? And I always have pain. I always, like, lower back, hips, cramps. I also have fibroids, so part of me usually
my
leans
cards
that
over
way,
there.
right? That, like, yes, girl, I need you in my life. But, like, are those easy fixes? Is it like the trigger point situation that you would be doing to work on, like, other areas of your body, I'm assuming? Is that what that looks like?
Rephrase that. Is it trigger points that I'm looking for in other parts of your body?
Is the trigger point therapy what you would be working on in order to, like, fix other spots in your body?
Most likely
Like,
that's a
is that-
component of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it all of it? Probably not. Because
Oh my
something's not
gosh.
working well, right? If something's
Yeah.
super tight, we all know that the knee bone's connected to the hip bone's connected to the whatever bone, right? And
Yeah.
like
That
now
little
we know
song.
that the jawbone's connected to the pelvic bone.
Totally.
Right?
So
So
crazy.
something's not working well. So a part of it is getting the tone out, but a part of it is figuring out why the tone is there to begin with and making that better, right?
Right.
What I like to tell my clients is, like, in a perfect world, I'm not seeing you again in 6 months for the same problem. I mean, great for business, bad for you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I want your body to be functioning in an efficient way. And of course, like, things happen, we revert to old habits. I revert to old habits. We are all susceptible to going back to the way that our comfort zone, right? Our comfort place. We all eat mac and cheese sometimes.
100%.
If you get into a car accident, the same problem pops up. I don't want you not to come back, right? That's a great reason to come back. But if you're coming back in 6 months for the same problem, we haven't really done our job. If you're coming to me every month for the rest of your life, I just don't think we've really done our job.
Yeah, there's something going on.
So
still.
in a perfect world, that means that we work with you for as long as it takes, and that could be a few weeks, it could be a few months, to make sure that your body has an idea of how to handle whatever it comes across.
Got it.
And that way you don't, you're not reverting to those habits that pull tension into the pelvic floor. And if it does, a small flare or whatever can be managed. You know the tools. You've got them in your back pocket. Your pelvic floor already knows how to relax or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So breath work.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about this, especially when it comes to sex, because I feel like I'm always in my head. You know what I mean? It's a running list, especially don't be a mom and think you're going to, like, enjoy yourself half the
God.
time because, right, there's a running list of all the things. And I imagine
We had to schedule sex.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said that on a
See?
podcast.
See?
But
No.
for real, it was
that
like,
is real shit right there.
Yeah.
Put it on the calendar.
Of all the things I thought I would never ever do, like ever, before I had children, and now we're 4 years into parenthood, and we're finally like, all right, I guess we're just gonna schedule it because
Yep. Get me that reminder.
yeah.
Go ahead and pop up on the phone.
So I can put all the things that really have to be done. I can just do them now, so they're not in my head for the next whatever.
Totally.
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love it. It's real life. That's
It's real
real.
life. Yeah.
That's real talk right there.
It was still fun.
Hey, see, worth it.
Yep.
Worth that
Even-
appointment.
Even scheduled sex is still fun.
Yep. I am here for it. But yeah, so especially knowing that that's something that you, like, specialize, that breath work is huge in your in your practice. What does that look like for us? Like, how does that help us? Because I feel like all of us want the best sex we can have, let's be real, especially the older we get. Because, I mean, now I don't have to focus on my kids as much. And so I feel like things should be much more exciting.
It should be very fun.
My list is getting shorter, so.
There you go. Yeah, just check those things off. Well, that's a good first place to start. Check the other things off your list.
Totally.
How to fix your pelvic floor 101. Get the dishes done.
Yep. Go ahead and fold that laundry.
Yeah, oh God, hire somebody to fold that laundry.
God,
my goodness,
seriously.
So much laundry. Breath work. So breath can work in both ways. If you're having tone in the pelvic floor and therefore pain with sex, breath work can help you unwind the tone. So what I think most people kind of walk into my clinic thinking, if we're going to do breath work, is that they're going to let go of their tension on the exhale, which is a very yoga, very upper traps, way to work that. But actually in the pelvis, we want that tension to release on the inhale. When you're inhaling, the belly expands to make room for all the viscera and all the interstitials and all the stuff that lives in your belly while the diaphragm comes down. Are you following?
Yep.
The pelvic floor also is going to open and make space for those things. And on the inhale, we talked a little bit about the movement of the pelvis, right? Biomechanically, the pelvis is closing on the top, opening on the top to make room also for all that stuff. So that's an extension of the belly, and thereby closing on the bottom, which puts slack in the pelvic floor. So you can get the most length out of your pelvic floor on your inhale. So we should be relaxing on the inhale. On the exhale, the bottom of the pelvis is opening, the top is closing, the diaphragm is lifting, the belly is falling, the pressure is going out of your mouth, so that's going to pull, in a way, pull the pelvic floor up, and that's where you can get the most tension in your pelvic floor. So if what you really need is opening, relaxing of those muscles, we're focusing a lot on the inhale. We might do stepwise inhales. We're going to start just by making sure that you can even get your belly to expand in breathing. Everybody lay down on the floor right now. See if when you inhale your belly rises. If it doesn't, that's the place to start. You're not getting into the pelvis if you're not getting into the belly.
Okay.
So we might work with that in a lot of different ways in order to get relaxation into the pelvic floor. If what you're needing is more strength in the pelvic floor, you're capitalizing on the shape of the pelvis, on the pressure in your abdomen, on the movement of your diaphragm in order to be able to strengthen into a full range with your pelvic floor. So depending on what you need, we might focus on different parts of the breath work, but nobody ever comes into my office and doesn't learn how to do belly breathing. If you already know, then awesome. Yeah. We'll find out if it's right.
Right, totally.
And if you don't, then I have spent sessions upon sessions upon sessions just teaching somebody, women especially, just have a really hard time letting go of all this gripping that we do in our bellies because we want to wear tight clothes and high heels and be presenting into the world in a certain way, and that's a learned thing, and it's hard to let that go. So first thing that we do is let it out, girls.
Right.
Just let it out.
Breathe.
Yep. Embrace the flab. Embrace the
absolutely.
Softness. And learn how to breathe well. And it's amazing what a different. I had one. This has only happened once, so don't run away with this. I had one client who, after her second session, when she mastered belly breathing, she was with me for pain with sex. She didn't come back. I wish she would have come back because there's always more to do. Let's just get that clear. But her pain was gone. I called her because she missed her third appointment. And she says, I don't need it. I'm doing better. This is different hospital-based system. Insurance doesn't pay for it if you're, if you're better. So I get it. But yeah, all she needed to learn to do was breathe into her belly, and her pelvic floor was like, oh, thank God.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
See, the connections are so crazy.
Yeah, the whole body. It's it's mind blowing to me. It's still don't tell me this is my pelvic floor. Are you having elbow pain? Because it might be the pelvic floor.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. And the breathing, like, and just, I feel like if we're breathing correctly, what I'm hearing, not only is everything working like it should be, but also I feel like it would get me out of my head and get, into what is happening.
Yes. Let's say you're breathing beautifully and you already know how to get to your pelvic floor through your breath. I'm still going to give it to you as a home, like something to practice at home, because the way that it gets into your nervous system, the balancers for your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, that's your nervous system that's fight or flight, or your nervous system that's like chill out, like totally stoned, right? Those two nervous systems are balanced partly by what's happening in the bottom lobes of your lungs. So if you're not using the bottom lobes of your lungs, the chances are pretty good that you're not turning down your fight or flight response. So step one, get your nervous system balanced, right? Overall health, like just overall well-being in your life. And that cannot be overstated how valuable that is.
Well, and especially knowing, like you said, that like so many more patients are too tight rather than needing to tighten. I feel like that would, if we're always up here and we're always holding our breath and clenched and tight and fight or flight, like no wonder everything is always
no wonder you're trying to chew with a clenched jaw.
Right.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
It's not like the pelvic floor stops having to work. And tightness does not equal strength. Like, I think this is a really common misconception. Tightness and strength are very different things. In order to be not tight, you have to have strength. A strong muscle is a happier muscle. Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, like, don't go in saying or thinking that you're super strong. You might have a lot of muscle power and you don't know how to use it effectively. Or you might be super weak, and that's the whole reason you're tight to begin with.
That makes sense, though, when you say, because in my mind, I think tightness and strength.
Right.
Okay, like I got this. Like I'm hanging surfboards.
Right. Yeah, I really do want to do a pelvic exam on this person. And an interview. Like I want to know what's happening when they use the toilet.
Around.
Maybe that strong a muscle isn't necessarily a happy muscle. I don't know.
Yeah, or extra happy.
Happy. I wonder if like tears in the pelvic. I don't know.
Yeah, so many things, right? Like I'm telling you, it was just like such a spiral of, oh my God, this is real life. And it's not just one woman on this website. There were multiple. Like I'm like, this is like a vagina ninja movement.
Good for them, I guess. More power to them.
Wild.
Not my goal.
Absolutely.
And if
wild.
you're coming to my clinic, probably not your goal either.
Right. So crazy.
If you come to me with that, I can't lift a surfboard with my vagina. I'm really going to wonder how that would serve you in your life.
Yep.
I mean, if you don't have arms and you got to get your surfboard to the beach, okay?
Absolutely. You never know. Never mind. Like I should not go there. Yeah, crazy. So because I don't understand all the pelvic muscles and the floor and how this all works. How does pelvic health affect like either arousal or orgasms?
Oh yeah, I meant to touch on that when you were asking about sexual health. So one of the muscles in the pelvic floor, which lives right under the labia, it kind of wraps around to the clitoral hood and then back to the perineal space. And that muscle, one of that muscle's primary responsibilities is to expose the clitoris, because we have this flap of skin that sits over the clitoris that kind of in a way just like prevents you from being aroused all the time, right? It's
again,
protective.
Being a woman, what the hell? Like, make it harder, please.
Well,
God,
if your pelvic floor works well, it's really still not that hard.
My gosh.
I mean, it's like sexual arousal is actually a pretty complicated system. I'm not going to pretend to fully understand it.
Yeah.
But a piece of it is that arousal engages that muscle, emotional arousal engages that muscle, which can cause physical arousal because it exposes the clitoris.
Got it.
And women's sexual pleasure is, I think, exclusively clitoral. So there are people, even researchers, I think, who believe that there are other like stimulation points. And the clitoris is bigger than we think. So when I say clitoral, that doesn't mean just the one little knob at the front. And if you don't know where it is, find it. It is the little knob at the front. That's what it is. So pelvic floor, like the ability for your pelvic floor to move, get long and get short, and work in a shortened position, work in a lengthened position, and kind of fluctuate between those things is imperative to arousal and orgasm. And then orgasms also, that kind of the feedback loop of like stimulation to nervous system to stimulation to nervous system. The stronger the pelvic floor contraction, the stronger that feedback loop. So orgasms are just, that's a fancy way to say orgasms are just better if you have a strong pelvic floor. A strong and functional pelvic floor, so also are able to lengthen.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they hurt, that's another, like if an orgasm hurts, that's
a red flag, a giant.
That's a flag, yeah.
What would normally cause something like that?
If the pelvic floor muscles aren't able to relax, and then using them more is painful, right?
Oh,
so if you did have that bicep shortening and you were carrying around a 10-pound weight all the time at 90 degrees of elbow flexion, bent elbow, and then somebody came along and put another 100 pounds on that, that'd be painful, right? Like that muscle is gonna complain.
Okay.
So that would be an example of why orgasm would be painful.
Okay, all right. Got it. I like this business.
I'm a visual. All the time at work, my elbows are really going for it.
That I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm glad you put it the way you did, as far as like between tone and tightness.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you're strong. Like that's. Because in my brain, I'm just like, oh yeah, the tighter the better. But if it's
the ability,
how do I
get
pick
tight.
up more and do more if it's already super engaged?
Yeah.
So okay.
I mean, I guess there's some question about like how tightness or the ability to have tightness in the pelvic floor affects men's sexual happiness, and I say, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
If he's getting some, he's happy.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're happy, that's my primary concern. So if your orgasms are great, then like whatever. But if they're not great, there probably is something that can be done about that.
Yeah.
And I guess the sensation, like the sensation that you have when he's penetrating, which even if it's not clitoral stimulation, can still be pleasurable, can improve also with some more muscle strength.
And that would be like tightness, right?
That would be the ability to get tighter in that space. Yeah.
Okay. And is that something that you work on in your field, or is that just like?
Yeah, that would effectively be muscle. I'd really want to dive into all the rabbit holes. Effectively, that comes down to muscle strength.
Okay.
Kind of, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we touched on it at teens, but what are ways, because I know, and we'll talk about it in just a second, because I did make a note because I wanted to make sure that we did with the direct access, right? But even with direct access, not everyone can afford to go to extra outside therapy, right? We just see our regular doctor. What ways would be helpful for us to, from your standpoint, be able to advocate for ourselves and what we're going through in the pelvic floor that would help in the medical field?
Specifically as it relates to like insurance and getting...
Well, just like when I go into my doctor and, I'm trying to explain what's going on, but there's no physical...
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, here's this pill you can take and it'll make it all better.
Yeah. How do you advocate for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
How can we best help ourselves?
So even in the insurance system, you have direct access available to you.
Okay.
You can go straight to your PT, your in-network insurance-based physical therapist, and say, this is a problem I'm having. I will need a signed plan of care for my insurance to pay for it, and that is then the PT's responsibility to get that note signed by a physician. So that can happen without a referral before treatment. And depending on what insurance you have, they might want that referral, but it really, anyway, if you want that referral, if you want to go to your doctor and get that referral, first of all, you can get it from any doctor. It doesn't have to be your PCP. It doesn't have to be your gynecologist. If you have a gynecologist who doesn't want to give it to you, there are other gynecologists. You can get an appointment with them. So actually, I think it can even come from like a chiropractor or a naturopath. It might depend. I don't know. Okay. But you can get that referral from, anybody with fancy letters behind their name. So don't feel like you're stuck if your PCP says no. Also, my belief is that if you say this is the treatment that I want, they should be able to say, yes, I support that treatment, and not have to know all the nitty-gritty details about it. If you're saying I'm having, some signs of pelvic floor dysfunction, I need a referral in order to get this covered by insurance, I strongly believe that this is a treatment that would help me. I really believe that a good doctor, a good physician, should respect that. You know your body better than anybody.
Absolutely.
And these days there's such an abundance of wealth out there. No PT worth their salt is gonna look at a really well-functioning body and say, yeah, come back tomorrow, right? So if there's not a problem, okay, great. Yeah. That PT isn't gonna treat you for not a problem. So first step is for you to believe that you needed to go see a PT. So if you are convicted, you'll find a way, and be convicted. Your health, sexual health is just health, right? We don't look at wanting to climb a mountain or wanting to walk down a city street as ambulatory health. We look at it as health. It's a function that your body needs to be able to do, and pelvic floor function is also a function that your body, many functions that your body needs to be able to do. Yeah. Right. And no matter whether it's sexual or bowel bladder or stability, it matters. You need to be able to do it. So it's not just your sexual health, it's your health. And I cannot believe this any more strongly. We need to take it seriously. You need to take it seriously. You need to take it. I need to take it seriously. This is it. I'm sorry. Oh, you're fine. Can you still hear me? It matters. So believe that, and go find the doctor who's going to support you, and then keep going back to that doctor.
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of us just feel stuck. With whoever we have, and that's feeling like it's okay to walk away and find someone else that does want to hear us out, is really empowering, because the opposite is just so mind-numbing, to just feel like you're on a hamster wheel and nothing's helping. And I love that we do have access to these types of care services in Oregon, and I don't know who else has that ability, but the referral game is such a freaking game. Yeah. So knowing that these are available, I think is huge.
Last time I saw my doctor, which I think was a year ago, he said that they're not even writing referrals anymore because nobody needs them. So they're just saying, here's the number for specialists. You don't need a referral from me to go see them, so go see them, which is awesome. Yeah. Because really the way that it ought to be worked is that the physician knows that they're not an expert in whatever, right? The physician
Why do you need to be the one to tell me I'm going somewhere when it's not something that you do?
The physician is supposed to know that they're not the expert, and that's why the referral, right? Yep. I'm referring you to somebody who knows more than I do. Right. Is the whole point. And in the pelvic floor, that's the pelvic floor PT, right? And in neurology, in the brain, that's the neurologist. And for some reason, it's not hard to get a referral to neurology, but it's hard to get a referral to pelvic floor PT. I don't think that people know that they don't know. I don't think MDs know that they don't know.
Oh, right. I think that makes sense, though.
There's a lack of knowledge out there. Even female providers went to the same school as all the male providers, where pelvic health was just kind of maybe a day, right? I missed that day is the joke, right?
That is so crazy to me.
I know. And I don't, I mean, I have hard feelings about it. Depending on the day, I really might get on my soapbox about it, but really you can't even be mad. Like, it's just a broken system.
Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. There's just
I don't know what I
improvements
don't
needed.
know. Like, I'll, you know,
right.
there are times that I don't know either. Even in the pelvis.
Every day there's something I don't know.
If we go
Every
outside the
damn
pelvis,
day.
it's every day.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 20 things I didn't know today alone. Okay. So we can see who we need to. We're going to advocate for ourselves. We all are going to understand that, like, your pelvic bowl literally holds up your whole entire body and that it's connected to a million different things and places. So I think that's amazing. What would be the biggest piece of advice that you would want to leave us with as far as our bodies, pelvic floor health, sexual health?
The biggest.
Yeah. Just the
When
number
you're
one.
belly breathing.
The best takeaway.
I think the best takeaway for anybody listening to this is that we're out there and we're findable. And if there's a 6-month wait list at your hospital-based outpatient clinic, there are other clinics. There are even other in-network insurance-based clinics, which, by the way, most of us who have private insurance have out-of-network benefits. So just not being in network doesn't mean that you're not covered.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's other places to look. There are people who will come to your house to do an evaluation for you. Mobile PTs. That's a growing thing. And if you're in doubt, if you're not sure, like, what's the harm?
Right. What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose? You get well checks from your physician, hopefully, so you can get a well check from a pelvic floor PT too.
Right. You go to the gyno and let him stick that damn thing up there.
Yeah, and if that hurts, seriously,
Yeah.
if that hurts, come
Yeah.
see somebody.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yay. Well, I really am thankful to you for coming on today and sharing what you know. I feel like I learned a lot about the connections. I still am stuck on jaw and pelvis, and I'm literally going to look it up because, not that I don't believe you, but I'm a deep diver.
Do look it up.
So
yes, do the deep dive. You'll find all kinds of conflicting information. I promise you it's true. You'll also find what I told you out there on the interwebs.
Totally. But yeah, so we will put up on all of the social media and the YouTubes and everything. Your website. Do you have socials?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make sure that we get those up there
They
as well.
are, I think I made my first post today for the first time in like 4 months.
Okay,
So
all right.
it's
No, I hear
proof
ya.
of life and not much else.
Yes.
But yes, I do
Perfect.
have them.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yay, well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Oh my gosh, thank
answering all my
you.
questions.
It's my favorite topic.